Hello everybody, this is David. Welcome back to my channel. This video is the next in our series, The Christian Ethic in the 21st Century, and we're currently looking at what's known as person-to-person ethics. How do we operate live out the Christian ethic in between people in the 21st century? In the last video, we looked at the kind of society that Christianity first came into in the Greek societies, the Roman societies, and even the Jewish societies. And we saw that there was nothing really in our present day that Christians haven't faced in the past. Interesting thought, actually, in that it's always been difficult to live the Christian life in whichever time in history that we've lived in, and it's no more difficult in our time, the 21st century, than it was in the first century. So what I wanted to have a look at is begin to look, how does the Christian ethic work itself out in on a person-to-person level, and I want to have a look at the aspect of the family. You know, we say that the family is the basic building block of society. So let's have a look at how family relationships work and how the Christian ethic can work within the family. So if you're ready, let's continue. Someone has said that what life does to us, every one of us, is equivalent to dropping us down the chimney of some house at random, landing us in the middle of a group of people, then saying, get on with it, get on with these people as well as you can. The problem of the family is quite simply the problem of living together. Now, when we study the New Testament family ethic, the first thing that strikes us about it is that in every case, it is what can only be called a reciprocal ethic. That is to say that no privilege is ever given without a corresponding responsibility. In the New Testament family ethic, the duty is never, literally never, all on one side. Yes, wives have to obey their husbands, but the husband is always to treat his wife with love and with consideration. Yes, children are to obey their parents, but parents are never to behave unreasonably towards their children in such a way as to make them angry or to discourage them. Always there is a double duty. Never is the duty all on one side, as we read in the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verses 21 to chapter 6, verse 9. And the book of Colossians chapter 3 verse 18 to chapter 4 verse 1. So in the family there are two main relationships. First, there is the relationship between parent and child. Now on the first side of the parent, there are two things that we need to say. The first is quite simply that those of us who are parents must remember that times change. Now, a certain famous authoress tells us how once she said to her small daughter, when I was your age, I was never allowed to do a thing like that. And the child answered, but you must remember, mother, that you were then and I'm now. There is a then and there is a now, and they are not the same, nor can they be made the same. The parent has to remember all the time that we cannot keep things as they were. So the second is even more important. When the Apostle Paul was writing to the Colossians, his plea to parents is to avoid treating their children in such a way that the children become discouraged, as we read in the book of Colossians chapter 3 verse 21. Now, it may well be that this is the most important rule of family life. The child may come to feel that the parent is always going on at them, and often they're not wrong, to tell you the truth. What most human beings, young or old, need in this world more than anything else is encouragement. Benjamin West became one of the great British painters, and he tells us how when he was young, his mother went out, leaving him in charge of his little sister Sally. Now, in the absence of his mother, the boy came across some bottles of coloured ink and some brushes, and was determined to try and paint a picture of his little sister Sally. Now, you can well imagine the result. There was ink here, ink there, ink everywhere. His mum came back to the house. She took one look at the mess and took one look at the boy's attempted picture, and this is her reaction. "Why," she said, "it's Sally." And she took Benjamin in her arms and kissed him. Now, and as Benjamin West said all his life afterwards, "My mother's kiss made me a painter." Isn't that amazing? Now, if she had done what so many of us would have been tempted to do, as in freak out at the mess, there might have been no Benjamin West. Now, our first instinct to those who are young should be encouragement. So we do not realize how much the young person worries with the modern tensions in education in life. It's said that in the age group 15 to 19, suicide is the third most common cause of death. And one of the greatest encouragements is simply to treat the child as a reasonable human being. The days of doing a thing because I say so are long past. Now, anyone will obey more quickly and act better if they do so intelligently and if he knows and understands why the order is given to them. So in the area of parent and child, the young person should remember the duty of gratitude. Now, it's a plain fact of nature that of all creatures, man takes the longest before he can sustain his own life. And there are long years when not positive injury, but simple neglect would have killed us. Only love can repay love. And yet it happens again and again within the family that we hurt most of all those whom most of all we ought to cherish. Now, when James Barrie looked back across the years to his relationship with his mother, Margaret Ogilvy, he said, "When I look back, I cannot see the smallest thing left undone. I do not think that I ever met anyone who could say that, but that is the aim. For one of the saddest things in life is to look back and say, if only I had done this or that." So one last thing in regard to the parent-child relationship is that a home should be the place from which the child is equipped to go out into the world and to which they will always return. You know, I told my son never to be afraid to come home. It doesn't matter where he is or what he's doing, never to be afraid to come home. Now, some parents find it very hard to grasp the fact that their basic duty is to enable the child to leave them and to live their own life. Smother love and mother love can be very easily confused. Now, if we bring up our children in such a way that they are eager to go out and glad to return, then our task will be done. So in the second area we're going to look at now of the home and family life is marriage. Now, there is no doubt that for the Christian ethic, in its ideal form, marriage is for life. In the Mark account of the words of Jesus in Mark chapter 10, verses 1 to 12, no exception at all is made to that rule. In the parallel Matthew account in Matthew chapter 5 verse 32, the one exception is divorce for infidelity. Now we have to be careful about what we do here. First of all, we have to face the fact that sexual infidelity is far from being the only thing that can wreck a marriage. Now, it's one of the curious facts of language that the word immorality has come to come almost exclusively to mean sexual immorality. Now, there is many a person in marriage who is blameless from their legal sexual point of view, but who has nonetheless succeeded in making marriage a hell, a living hell for the other partner. Now, Dorothy Sayers, who was a theologian who lived in the last century, she was actually from Oxford, my home city. She was what we know as a lay theologian, or she wasn't graduated. This is what she said. A man may be greedy and selfish, spiteful, cruel, jealous, unjust, violent and brutal, grasping, unscrupulous, and a liar, stubborn and arrogant, stupid, morose and dead to every noble instinct. And yet, if he practices his sinfulness within the marriage bond, he is not thought by some Christians to be immoral. Now, there are issues today there have always been issues with that kind of behaviour within marriage, and should the wife stay. Now, there are other things than adultery which can kill a marriage, and the love which should be in it. I'm going to leave the video here for now. I want to have more of an in-depth look at marriage and perhaps some problems with modern thinking, modern behaviour in the next video. So I want to thank you for joining me in this video. See you on the next one. Bye bye.